Hi, okay, so I'm back with a review this time, not a rant for once. I do still want to do reviews as well as rants. And today I'm reviewing an Xbox game I've been trying to play for a long time called Tell Me Why. It's not a new game, it's a game that launched years ago actually, but it's been taking me forever to finish it, and I'm nearly finished it now. Still not actually finished it, but I think I've played enough of it to sort of give a fairly accurate review of it. So Uh, Tell me why I was always quite interested in this game when it was first announced because the company that made it, which is like Don't Nod, are the people who made Life is Strange, which I personally really loved. The very first Life is Strange game. I remember when it first came out in episodes and they released it over a year. I was really, really into it and I thought it was really good. I think at the time it got fairly negative and poor reviews actually, but I always enjoyed Life is Strange. Um, and it became a big hit. We've had Life is Strange 2, and then they've gone on and had other things. And there's another game coming out in that series later this year. So I'm excited to play that. So I was excited to give Tell Me Why a go from that point of view. But unfortunately, like as I'm coming to the end of it now, and of course this is always bear in mind it could have an amazing ending, but I don't really think it's really very good. Like I think it started off with some really interesting potential in the first chapter, and it's only 3 chapters, so it's quite a lot shorter than Life is Strange, which was like 5 chapters, I think. Um, and so it doesn't really give you as much time to get to know the characters, but I also don't think the characters are quite as good, and I think overall the story's not quite as good, and the gameplay really sort of lets it down as well. So yeah, basically, like the story begins quite interesting. Like it's a sort of murder mystery with, this young kid who comes into the police station and says that he's killed the mum. And then it cuts to so many years later when the kid has grown up and he's been in prison for X amount of years for this crime, and then he's coming back to society. And it's interesting because it's a transgender character. It's the first time I've seen a transgender character in a game, so I have to give them points for attempting that, having this trans character in it, which was good. It's a good idea. I do believe that we should have those sort of characters in games and media, and it's about their connection with their sister, reconnecting with their sister, and the two of them kind of figuring out what happened, because the situation with the mum seems to be that initially the mum was upset that they were finding out that because they were both initially girls, and obviously one of them wanted yeah, transition into boy, and she went sort of crazy after finding this out, and then tried to kill them, and then they killed the mum out of self-defense, and all this stuff comes out. So all that bit of the story was really, really good, and the first chapter I think really had me hooked, but then it just really loses pace. Like they have this interesting idea there, but then like there's nothing else really interesting about it. Like, yes, you find out that she had mental health issues, you find out that she was really struggling, you find out that she was actually accepting of the fact that he was going to be transitioning in the end, because they find like a book. They're basically there trying to sell this house and move on from memory of their mum, and then they find out that maybe what they thought about the mum wasn't really true, and that she wasn't maybe that wasn't the reason she went crazy. It was nothing to do with that. It was other things. So it does touch on some interesting things, but each chapter it's got less and less interesting. Unfortunately, I think the problem lies in a couple of areas. One is obviously, as I said, it's about these two siblings. One of them's called Tyler. Tyler's the one who's a transgender person, and then the other one's called I've forgotten her name, Alison. And I think that as well intentioned as it was to give us a transgender character, and it feels like the majority of the story is told through their point of view. The problem is that Tyler's not really a nice character. He's not really an engaging character. He comes across as really, really selfish, really entitled. And I'm not saying this is reflective of trans people at all. I don't think it is, but I'm just talking about the character traits he has. Really just not got much time for anyone, really like preachy about stuff. He just comes across sort of person you wouldn't want to know. And obviously you get that he's been through a lot of stuff, and for a certain amount of time you understand that. But it's also like I just didn't care about the character after a bit. And I think it's a shame because the other character, Alison, who's the sister, I think she was a much more interesting character, actually. I think she was more likable, and I would have preferred it if we'd seen more from her point of view. I feel like his story and the whole transgender thing totally overshadowed her story, but her story was better done and her character was better done, and I feel like she's a more compassionate character. She's like struggling with kind of wanting to reconnect with Tyler, between wanting to keep things with her stepdad good because she really cares about stepdad, and Tyler doesn't of course care about the stepdad at all. And the game also like gives you choices, like a lot of these games do, like what to do, but it always feels like it's almost forcing you to side with Tyler. And how Tyler views memories and things like that, because a lot of it's based on memories, and but have Alison will remember something one way, Tyler remembers it a different way, and you have to choose. And sort of to keep the two in harmony, it means always sort of picking what Tyler believes happened, um, which is always a sort of harsher memory, of how people were and stuff. But I think the problem is when you get down to it, there wasn't really a great mystery. Like it hints at some really really cool things in a certain part of the second chapter that are almost like supernatural, and there's a supernatural connection between the two of them where they can sort of hear each other's thoughts. So there's loads of like little elements that hint at something really cool, possibly even in a fantasy aspect in one point, but it never actually goes there with any of it. It just sort of hints at it and then doesn't do anything, and the game just stays firmly rooted in reality, which gets kind of boring after a while. I feel like there's much more potential with some of those ideas that they didn't explore. Now, like I said, I'm in the third chapter now, so maybe they do explore them here, but the third chapter of a three-chapter game isn't really going to redress the balance at that point. Like, you'd really have needed it to have been part of the main story all the way through. I mean, I might just do a quick update video on this when I do finish it to see if my ideas changed, but the other problem I have with the game is an inordinate amount of boring tasks, like, that you're given to do, that sort of separate the story. So while the story to some extent is intriguing, at least for a while, some of the gameplay is mind-numbingly boring to do. It's just revolving around walking around a supermarket, like picking up shopping, or walking around a filing room looking for files, or walking around another place looking for certain items. It's just an item hunt, really. Now, Life is Strange had similar things with that, and sometimes the gameplay in Life is Strange wasn't always the greatest either. It was really something you were playing for story, and there was times where you had to go off and like find bottles or something. But with Life is Strange, it had the cool gimmick that you could rewind time and things like that. And this was not that. You don't have any sort of time rewinding ability. You have the ability to see memories, but apart from that, it's very much just like a real world thing. And I was quite looking forward to that, because as much as I like Life is Strange with the sort of the mysterious powers aspects of those games, I thought it would be nice to play something that's a bit more gritty, a bit more realistic, and doesn't really do that. But in practice, it's just meant gameplay wise, without the rewind ability, there's not a lot that's really that fun to do. It's just wandering around a room, picking up things, talking to people. Gameplay gets really tedious, and even though it's a short game, like I'm saying, it's only 3 chapters, I got seriously bored playing the second one towards the end. It was like nails on chalkboard, just trying to walk around an area, try and find someone to talk to someone, or picking items off a shelf. And some of the side characters are unbelievably dull as well. There's a side character called Michael who is just so boring to talk to. I don't care about him. I cared a lot actually about all the characters in Life is Strange. Even the little side characters, there were quite a few that you grew to kind of like and know who they were. As simple as they were, yeah, it wasn't the most complex character study ever. But with like the story of Max and Chloe, I really felt that even though Chloe became a bit insufferable at certain times, you still sort of understood where she was coming from, and there were certain times when she redeemed herself a bit, particularly after you played the companion game, like Before the Storm, so you saw her point of view a lot more. But with this, I just feel like they didn't do enough, for whatever reason, to really make me care about Tyler. They didn't do enough to make me really care about everything he'd been through. He just seemed like an angry person not for no reason, but it didn't jive with me. That's all I can say. although I do respect the fact that he was a trans character, I think that was interesting, and it was good that they took on that, and quite brave of them to take it on, because no one else is doing it in video games in a minute. But it was nothing to do with the trans aspect of the character, by the way. I'm not transphobic, but just the character as is, it was not particularly likable. So unfortunately, I don't think it was very good. Like I say, I'm near the end of it now, but it's lost. I've lost enthusiasm for it with each chapter, and it shouldn't really be that way. It should be that you're increasing your enthusiasm with each chapter. So I've got a few days left to finish it, and I really want to get it done. So I might just do a quick update video later, going over the ending and if I enjoyed it or if it changed my mind. But so far, it's definitely, I'm not really feeling it, to be honest. I do like Don't Knock games, and I'll be looking forward to whatever they do next. But for me, this was a little bit of a loss, of an L. But yeah, it's not terrible in all aspects, but also graphically, it's not the greatest thing either, which I don't mind, because the graphics on Life is Strange still don't look good even on the remastered version. So I don't really play those games for amazing graphics or anything like that. But what really drives those games is the characters and the story. And if that's not that interesting, if the gameplay is boring, it's not got a lot left in its favour, really. So yeah, there might be some great twist at the end that changes my mind on it, but so far it's becoming less and less interesting as it goes, and even sort of cringy at a point as well. It becomes kind of cringeworthy in certain ways, because there's no real bad guy in the situation, which is fine, I suppose, but it's just odd because you just end up getting to the bottom of like the secrets around it, and it doesn't really seem to be much there. It's just like, well, this person said this person said that, and then they're always hinting at a deeper thing. And again, like I said, that might still be revealed, but it's like stretching it out too far as well, and it's not really interesting at a certain point. Like, you can only stretch a mystery box thing out for so long before it just gets a bit tiresome. And I think with Life is Strange, they did a good job of having one general mystery that was at the central heart of it, and then adding other mysteries on top of it. They never explained everything over there. They didn't explain like how she had rewind powers or how she got them or where they came from. And I like that. They never explained that part of it. But yeah, so Life is Strange was, in my opinion, much, much better. I would probably replay and have actually replayed that again. And the remaster version, although I can't speak much to the remaster of it, it's not particularly great. But in terms of the story and the characters, I still think it's really good. So yeah, I would say I maybe look at Life is Strange again and review that. But as for Tell Me Why, I'm not really feeling it that much. So yeah, that's my review. Tell Me Why. Unfortunately, not that great.